When you think about our biggest blockbusters, those huge sci-fi epics, the dark and gritty noir thrillers, all the superhero sagas, what you're really looking at is our modern mythology. These are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and who we could be. But to really get it, to understand them, we have to dig a little deeper into where they came from. So where did these absolutely monumental stories come from? I'll give you a hint. The answer is probably not what you're thinking. They didn't come from some pristine high art gallery. No, they came from somewhere a whole lot messier, way more fascinating, and frankly, a lot more complicated. Okay, so our first clue is this idea I like to call the stained blueprint. And the concept is simple. The source code for our most beloved entertainment today was written a long, long time ago. And it was written in a format that, back then, the cultural gatekeepers thought was, well, disposable junk. Think about it this way. Every grand cathedral of cinema, every single skyscraper in modern literature, it owes its existence to some messy, daring, and often flawed first draft. These weren't perfect plans, not even close. They were these wild, sometimes chaotic sketches that just dared to dream really, really big. So what exactly were these blueprints made of? Well, the foundational genres we know and love, we're talking science fiction, hard-boiled noir, and superheroes, they were first sketched out on super cheap, totally disposable pulp paper. But, and this is the crucial part, those blueprints were stained. Woven right into their design were the prejudices of the time, like walls built out of exclusion and fear. So, you might be wondering, if the blueprint was so cheap and stained, how in the world did it become so valuable? That brings us to our second little story. An allegory about an alchemist who didn't turn lead into literal gold, but into something much, much more powerful. And here's the key. The pulp stories were kind of like bars of dull lead. Their real value wasn't the cheap paper they were printed on. Not at all. It was their incredible ability to fire up our collective imagination. They were the catalyst that got us all thinking about space travel, masked vigilantes, and mysteries lurking in the shadows. And you can see this alchemy happen right before your eyes with the detective archetype. The original pulp PI, a pretty simple two-fisted hero. Justice was basically a punch to the jaw in some lurid throwaway adventure. But through the fire of our cultural imagination, that simple concept got transformed into the modern neo-noir detective. Think of Deckard in Blade Runner, a troubled, psychologically complex antihero, just trying to navigate a world where everything is a moral gray area. The cheap lead of the dime novel became the prestige gold of character-driven cinema. But we can't just leave it there. We have to talk about those stains on the blueprint, right? The poison in the soil. This legacy isn't just about creative genius. It's also about facing a really difficult past. And that means we have to take on a new role, the role of a very careful gardener. You see, the pulp era was like this vast orchard. It grew some incredible fruit, ideas that gave us heroes and wonder. But some of its roots were just twisted, and they poisoned the very ground they grew in with the harmful stereotypes and prejudices of the time. And listen, these weren't small thorns. We're talking about really pervasive, damaging tropes. The helpless damsel just waiting to be saved. The sinister villain whose main evil was just that they were foreign. The sidekick of color who was treated as completely disposable. And the femme fatale who was reduced to nothing more than a simple, one-dimensional trap. These were the building blocks of prejudice, woven right into the stories. So what does a modern creator do with that? Do you just burn the whole orchard down? Well, the modern approach is a lot more nuanced. It's like what a careful gardener would do. You don't pretend the poison doesn't exist. You acknowledge it. And then you consciously, carefully prune away the dead, harmful wood. And the result of that pruning? It's incredible. Instead of damsels in distress, we get complex heroines who drive their own stories. Instead of simplistic foreign villains, we get nuanced antagonists with motives that, actually make sense. And characters from diverse backgrounds, they are no longer the sidekicks. They are the protagonists. They are the heroes. All of which leads us to one final, really critical question. If these stories were born from such flawed material, why do they still have such a powerful hold on us today? The answer, I think, lies in our final story, the mirror in the mud. Just imagine finding a cracked, dirty mirror, but when you look into it, you don't just see your own reflection. You see a world of pure potential, a world with heroes, with cosmic destinations, with mysteries hiding in every alley. That was the magic of the pulps. They weren't supposed to be realistic. They were aspirational, imaginative. And that's exactly what our screens are doing for us today. The phone in your pocket, the TV on your wall, They are the direct descendants of that cracked mirror. They reflect those same basic, fundamental human desires for adventure, for a sense that justice is actually possible, and for a chance to just escape into a world that's a little more exciting than our own. So, when we step back and look at the legacy of the pulps, we're not looking at something simple. Not at all. We are looking at a deeply, deeply complicated inheritance, one that's just filled with both brilliance and baggage. So, let's bring it all home. We've inherited these magnificent trees, these huge, genre-defining concepts that shape our entire pop culture. We also have to acknowledge that they grew from a bitter fertilizer, that problematic social soil of their time. And that leaves us with the gardener's duty, to be wise enough to appreciate this amazing creative harvest, while also being responsible enough to keep tending that garden for the future. Which really leaves us with one final thought. As the audience, as the people who consume these incredible stories that have grown from such complex soil, what's our role? What's our responsibility? How do we honor all the amazing creativity of the past while making sure the garden continues to grow healthier and stronger for the future? That's something to think about the next time you press play.